Someone needs to explain to me why this fight is even before the next one. But in any case, is anybody else crazy excited to watch Gregor get back in there? Double G is someone that if you look into him and you understand MMA, you understand the fight game, you understand what it takes to get to this level. The guy put in so much work as just an NCAA wrestler. Like when you think about coming out of, smaller college, that kind of thing, he just absolutely destroyed that part of, the U.S. when it came to his collegiate wrestling career. It's absolutely marveling to see. And if you have the time, by all means, go read up on it, because I think that's what made him such an exciting prospect coming into the UFC. He's 13-1 now, and we'll get into that one loss, but some of the stats that you can even see on him, it's just incredible. There's like a handful of fighters that have spent, I think it's like over 30 minutes of grappling in their UFC careers, and he's only seen, he's held control time for 99.5% of the time. So to grapple for that long and hold position for 99.5% of the time, that beats everybody else out of the water, by the way. Kamaru's not there. Your John Joneses aren't there. That is number one in the UFC. So for me, I've really understood just how good this man's grappling is. Now, let's take a look at the Kevin Lee fight. In that fight, he very much chose to stand and bang for a while. Kevin Lee came in with the longer legs, the power, all that kind of stuff. And frankly, he lined up a leg kick that was so beautiful that, 90 days, suspension for Gregor. We saw one of his fights followed. So that's why it's been taking him quite some time to get back in there, which has made us, kind of anticipate his return. But, as a wrestler, I would have wanted to see him exploit that a bit more. Kevin Lee's very thick and he's got long legs. He's powerful. So, just in terms of all those stats we just discussed, is Kevin Lee a guy that would falter in that position as well? Because, when I'm looking at some of the overall stats here, we don't really see too much of the takedowns in terms of like that crazy accuracy that we usually see, because Gregor's only coming in at 47% takedown accuracy. So he goes for it. But I think in his sense, defense, I don't think anyone's trying to take him down. He's sitting at that 0%, probably been on his back a couple times. Just kidding. I really believe that this is going to be one where Diego Ferreira is a great BJJ fighter, but he's put so much time into his striking, man. He's been absolutely on fire with some of the knockouts he's put together. Then he goes and faces Papa Power and Beneil Dariush and gets lit up over there. But who's not losing to Beneil Dariush right now? And that's the perfect fight for him to go up against Tony Ferguson now. But when you go look at the fight against Beneil Dariush, that was really close. And it was a very close split decision. And I think that's where you're wondering, who did what in the later rounds. I thought that Beneil very much, ended the fight better and looked a lot better in terms of, the healthier fighter, not taking so many blows. He dropped Diego a couple of times. That's where I'm curious to see if Gregor is able to get past that type of striking, because even when you look at the Kevin Lee fight, Kevin Lee was landing just such a beautiful, crisp jab. And even the strikes coming back were landing a bit, but they weren't doing much damage, even though Kevin Lee had a cut. So I'm really interested to see where Gigi takes this fight, because, in some of his experience with that strike, is he going to be a little bit more fearful now of getting in there and trying to strike with people like that? I think the big thing for me is just looking at his past record, 13-1, that's the only blemish, and he's been phenomenal leading into that fight. So with this one, it's like he's still getting that quality caliber of fighter, man. He's a top 10 fighter, bar none, in the UFC, and so in his division. And so that's where I think that this Diego Ferreira fight makes sense. He's coming off a loss against Beneil Dariush, needs to keep his rankings, in place, and that's where I think that if the power comes into play, Diego Ferreira could come away with a pretty big win. We've seen the chin of Gregor's, get caught, but hands were down. He was kind of spinning as he saw it. Like it was a kick that Kevin Lee set up absolutely perfectly. Gave Faraz Zahabi a jumping high five right after. I mean, it was a perfectly fought fight for Kevin Lee, and I think it was a great learning experience for Gregor. And then the same can be said for Diego, who went up against Kings of MMA's, coach galore. Everybody loves this man. He's such a sweet man. And, getting the awards of like fatherly figures type of things. These are the guys that you want to see succeed, right? And so, that split decision basically got him an opportunity to get close to that title shot, which he probably thinks he deserved a long time ago based on his record and the types of wins he's put together. So with Diego Ferreira getting now an opportunity against a guy like Gregor, I think that's kind of now in the same boat. He's got to now prove that he needs to get back into that title picture, because Gregor is now back on the come up, hoping for that win against Diego Ferreira. So when we look at the lines here, my word, Gregor was actually opened at a -200 favorite, with Ferreira coming in at +150. That's a little surprising for me, I'm not going to lie. But the -180, -170, it's coming back down to earth with Ferreira sitting at a +145. If I remember correctly, I'm quite certain that Ferreira and Beneil Dariush fight closed at even money. So I'm kind of enjoying the statistical geek side of this fight, because, Diego's striking advantage is there, but, when it comes to striking accuracy, GG's actually better with the 49% versus Diego's 37%. And Diego's got 68% takedown defense, and his BJJ is insane. Gregor has worked his way to a BJJ blue belt. So all this little chess games that you see in MMA fights with these high-level fighters, this is the fight that we're going to see that in. I thought this fight or the Neil Magny fight were the perfect options for main eventing, but I think that with how exciting how good Marina Rodriguez is and Michelle Waterson has been in her fights, it's kind of those things that it makes sense that it's a very billable fight to put the two girls on there. And like I said, all that happens is it just makes this main card look so much more beautiful. And I think that Gillespie has a very good opportunity to come up with the victory. But if you go look at that last fight with the power situation and just not being completely disciplined and being in the wrong place, wrong time, with Kevin Lee seeing that right off the bat and landing clean, those are the situations where he's going to want to keep his hands up. He's going to want to avoid those areas where if Diego can come in flying, or he can take you down for maybe some BJJ fun, I think that's an area where you just want to avoid the mat and kind of avoid that close distance for the most part.